Hey guys, this is Dawn, and in this series I've been reading my book called Enchanted and based at Yaya. Gotta get that thumbnail in there. This chapter is chapter 8, Broken Arms and More Bad News. So if you want to hang out while I read a book that I wrote a little while ago, I would love to have you. Welcome back. If you remember in the last chapter where we ended, Dearie had just crashed her bike and landed in the wild sago palms. Okay. Chapter 8, Broken Arms and More Bad News. I probably lay there for a good minute before trying to get up. My arm was useless, and I realized to my horror that it was broken. I managed to rise to my feet, but I was in too much pain to get the bike. The front wheel was bent, and I would have to carry it. Frank was fussing around in the back of the pickup truck when I got to the edge of the short driveway. I was holding my arm in pain, but the tears were just not there. He poked his head out, cigarette hanging from his lips, and he looked mad. He shined his flashlight in my face, making me step back into the middle of the road. "Where the hell is my bike?" he snapped. "I need to go to the hospital." "You're right." "I'm serious. I think my arm is broken." "Yeah? Well, you owe me $45 for the phone bill." "Frank, please." He was in no mood. "Walk," he said as he slammed the truck door. The shock was wearing off, and the pain was radiating all the way to my neck. Just before he went inside, he yelled at me over his shoulder, "Ever find your stick buckets?" And then with that, he slammed the front door. I was stunned, but I didn't blame him. The closest hospital was 2 miles up the highway. I didn't want to walk back towards Birds and risk running into Lauren, me all contorted with twigs in my hair. I felt like a crushed-up soda can. I could feel that my face and forehead were scratched as they started to burn. I also didn't want to have to go back inside and pass Frank to call Mary. For a moment, I felt hopeless. I was starting to cry out loud from the pain. The dogs were out back and had apparently heard me. Moose danced back and forth with concern a few times just before he jumped the gate. Murky couldn't do this. Frank was out back and walked to the gate, cussing at the dog along the way. He saw Moose run to my side to sniff my pants and check me out. Annoyed, Frank waved us off and went back out of sight. I was defeated, but at least I had Moose. All I could do was sit in the middle of the road and feel sorry for myself. Moose licked me right in the face. He stared at me a moment, snorted, and took off down the street like a greyhound. I'd never seen him run so fast. "Shit," I sobbed. Shit, damn it." I rolled around on my knees trying to get up, but I just didn't have the strength. I knew this was it. I was about to be homeless. There's no way my brother would forgive me if something happened to his dog. I cried even harder. Soon I could see headlights coming up the road, so I scooched on my butt to get to the grass. As the little blue car passed, the young man driving the car looked at me like I was a circus freak. His female friend in the passenger seat raised herself up to look over him so she could gawk at me too. They rolled their eyes at each other and kept driving. "Assholes," I yelled. I sat quietly so I could mindfully assess the damage. It didn't take long. Everything hurt. "Well, it's not going to heal itself. Nobody's going to save me. I can do this. I can do this." Getting off the ground with one arm was seriously easier said than done. I couldn't even use the good arm for balance as I needed it to hold the broken one in place. So I sat. I closed my eyes and prayed for the scales of reason to help me out. Nothing came to mind. Then, to myself, I called out to old Chubby. I didn't do it on purpose. It just kind of happened. Almost immediately, to my terror, I heard something stir in the bushes. I prepared myself mentally, but my heart was pounding. I honestly thought an alligator was about to come out of the bushes, let me climb onto her back, and escort me all the way to Oshner Medical Center. I was let down, however, when I saw the reflection of 2 shining front-facing eyes. It's a raccoon. My sobs turned to laughter. I was laughing at myself. Another car was coming up the road. This one was bigger than the last one, a lot bigger. A proud American Staffordshire mix was sitting tall in the passenger seat with his tongue hanging out. I recognized the cutlass. It was Claire. And there I was, covered in dirt and tears, scraped and bruised, crying and laughing, and practically laying on the side of the road like a discarded rug. "Did your brother put you out with the trash?" she asked. We both laughed. Any awkwardness I could have felt was ripped off like a Band-Aid. She stopped the car and got out. Moose stayed put. I was about to be rescued. "Where is your brother?" she asked while helping me up. "Backyard or inside, I don't know." She told Moose to scoot over and helped me get into the passenger side. "Watch it," she said as she slammed the door. She was mad. Her orange hair was down and long. She tucked it purposefully behind her ears as she walked toward the back gate. I guess he wasn't out back there because she soon came back around and went to the front door. Murky started barking and the porch light came on. Frank opened the door. She looked like she was about to kill him, but she kept her composure. I couldn't understand any of the conversation, but I think the dogs were communicating with telepathy. I saw my brother shrug. He gave me a bit of a wave and he closed the door. Claire got back in the car, lit a long cigarette, and proceeded to drive. The drive was quiet, other than the sound one would hear when sitting in a huge open-top convertible in the South at night in the middle of summer. I was in so much pain, I focused on the sounds to distract me. The engine, the wind from the car, the crickets, the frogs, and the gravel under the tires when she turned into the main drag. "Damn it," she said quietly as she threw her half-smoked cigarette out. "I didn't know you smoked." "Special occasions." "Well, what's the occasion?" I was so naive I missed the joke. She laughed anyway. Moose started neurotically sniffing me. I could see a little bit of lightning flash in the southwestern sky. Rain was coming. "What are we going to do with the dog?" "He's coming with us." "Are they even open?" "It's a hospital." The car came to a park, but Claire stared straight ahead and didn't move. It occurred to me that this must be where we part ways. I got tough, used my work inside to roll the bottom of my shirt up over my broken arm, and I used my mouth to tie a knot through the neck hole of my top. "Come on, dog," I barked as I opened the car door, but Claire interrupted. "No, not like this. I know somewhere better." The car started back up. I reached for the cigarettes on the seat beside her as she crossed the highway. She smacked my hand, making the whole car wobble when she released her 10 and 2. "Come on, I'm having a shitty night." "You don't need those damn things." "Where are we going?" "We are going to see my doctor." She glanced at Moose and smiled. I managed to snatch a cigarette. Halfway through it, she told me a little more. "I've never really appreciated hospitals. You don't get this old by adding chemicals to your diet every time something goes a little haywire. All women have a purpose. We all possess magic." "But where are we going?" I asked again. "Louisiana. I know a lady." I finished my smoke and leaned back. My anxiety was no match for the night songs of the lowlands. I was out cold in no time and had no idea what time it was when I awoke, but I heard a familiar tune. An ice cream truck? I shot up in time to see the singing mailbox. "Nan's!" "Is there anyone you don't know?" I asked, surprised. She looked at me curiously, but figured it out. "You know my hedge witch, eh?" Somehow that does not surprise me. No, ma'am, not one bit. In proper fashion, Nan was standing on the steps by the time the huge car made it up the painfully bumpy dirt driveway. She was yawning and rubbing her face to wake up. She shrugged her arms out using body language to ask what was up. It was about to thunderstorm and I could feel the intensity in the air. Claire yelled out to her, "Feel like having a little reunion? We need ice." "I need a hospital." I opened the door and Moose almost broke my other arm trying to get past me so he could relieve himself. Nan went back inside to light a lamp so we could see. The dog snuck past us and Claire stayed by my side as we ascended the steps to the bedroom. Moose had already jumped on the bed for emotional support, but Claire snapped at him to get down. "He's all right. I want him." Nan brought a bag of frozen peas, a cup of smelly tea, and a stethoscope. "I need to listen to your heart for just a minute." "Why?" "I need to keep track before you drink this. Sometimes the side effects are not so good." She listened to my chest from a few different angles, seemed satisfied, then told me to take a small sip. I was scared, but that was in my stomach. Something I'd been realizing is that true gut intuition is actually more of a knowing. Unfortunately, it gets replaced with negative self-talk if we aren't raised right. I thought of Bird and the conversation we'd had a little over a month ago about acting my way into right thinking. I straightened my shoulders the best I could. I took a sip. The tea was bad. Moose snorted. It started to rain. It was loud on the tin roof and smelled pleasant and earthy, but the tea overpowered it. "It tastes like how cow crap smells. What is this?" My glance danced from Nan to Claire multiple times. "Valerian and a few other things, but that's what you're smelling." "I can taste it too." "Not really. That's a trick that your nose plays on you." The flickering light of the gas lamp danced around the room. It was comforting like the lopsided fan at the diner. I took that as a final sign that I was in good hands. After a little while, Nan checked under the peas. My arm was a lot less swollen. She moved her hands up and down my arm, whispering all the while. "No displacement, that's good, that's really good. Collarbone seems swollen, well, that's all right. Humerus is fine. It's the ulna, all right." And her voice raised back to a normal soft tone. "Well, you only broke one bone. It's the smaller one. It could be worse. You could have broken both bones in your forearm." She laid my arm carefully across my stomach while Claire fluffed my pillows and told the dog to lay down. Nan checked my heart rate again. She didn't seem worried at all. "What do?" I asked. "Drink the rest of your tea and get some rest. Don't move your arm. We'll get you squared away." I did as I was told. I drank the vile drink, I leaned my head back, and I fell fast asleep. What did you put in there? Claire asked Nan. Belladonna, she whispered. Oh. It was still raining in the morning. I could smell coffee brewing and charcoal burning. I gave myself some time to wake up a little bit more before I forced myself to know where I was. I slowly remembered the events from the day before. I remembered I broke my arm. I remembered that Claire rescued me. And I remembered that I was at Nan's. I sat up. My arm was completely set and wrapped with some kind of foam and vintage-looking fabric. Moose was on the floor, and he sat up too. He gave a bark, alerting the women that I was up. I looked around the room slowly. It was just as lovely as the downstairs. The furniture consisted of a chest of drawers, a rocking chair, and an antique bed that I was laying on. There were dried gardenias and magnolias in a bowl and multiple wreaths of dried lavender and eucalyptus above the bed. A garland of other dried herbs hung delicately around the doorframe. The back wall had both a window with sheer white linen curtains that overlooked the bayou and a back door that led to a small balcony with a staircase to the yard. Claire came up with a cup of something steaming. For the love of God, no more of that cow crap juice. It's coffee, and it's black. How's my little troublemaker this morning? She asked as she rubbed my hair, then rested her hand on my shoulder. I'm confused. Any pain? No, actually, I feel really good. I am hungry. I sniffed the air around my pits and under my sheets, and I think I need a shower. From downstairs, Nan yelled up to me that I should take a dip in the bayou out back. My first thought was hell no, but that fuzzy feeling told me it was perfect. I drank my coffee and made my way down the inside steps. I ate some cheese and crackers while I looked out the back window. The rain had stopped and the sun was making his way through the clouds to say hi. Nan had gone outside and I watched her as she was fussing around with an inner tube. She tied it to the back dock ladder and set it on a large sheet of plastic that lay on the ground where the land sloped into the water. She came back inside and used a different kind of plastic to cover my dressings. Ready? She asked. I wasn't sure, so I shrugged. We went out back and I couldn't see how this was going to work. She helped me down. Put your butt in the hole, she said. So I did. Claire came out and made herself cozy in a folding chair. Nan poured some cooking oil next to me. It'll help your butt not stick. Then she slowly pulled on the rope toward the edge, and I slid down my bumpy ramp, smoothly transitioning into the water. Now what? Lean back until your hair is all wet. Catch, she said as she tossed me a wash rag with yummy-smelling herbs wrapped up inside of it. It landed in my lap. Moose came bounding across the yard and jumped into the water. He splashed me good and rocked me in his wake. Thanks, I laughed, but Claire was hot on his trail. Moose, no sir. Get out of there, you'll be sick. She was serious. I thought she was being kind of snippy with him until Nan told me that Claire had made him a 5-star breakfast earlier. 10 scrambled eggs and 3 slices of watermelon. She even plucked all of the seeds out of it. Spoiled doggy, I replied. Nan smiled, rolled her eyes, and shook her head. Yeah, right, Claire chimed in. He's a thief is what he is. Got any more eggs? I shouted to Claire. I knew Nan had her own chickens, but I couldn't imagine how many eggs they could lay. Sure. She smiled before getting up and making her way to the back of the building. That was the first time I noticed the grill. I had smelled charcoal, but I didn't know where it was coming from. There was also a refrigerator and a sink. Is it still hot, Nan asked her. It's perfect, she replied. I leaned back and took in all the beauty around me. Cypress trees with Spanish moss stood tall all along the banks and looked like old grandmothers with long gray hair and litters of small wooden babies all around each trunk base. I saw a fish hawk sailing the air just above the surface of the water looking for breakfast. My stomach rumbled. I wonder what else out there hadn't eaten enough food yet today. I started to worry about alligators and snakes and other aquatic carnivores. All right, let me out, I squawked. I tried to pull myself up with one hand. Nan was on her way with a pep in her step. My voice gave way to urgency, and she didn't want me trying to get out on my own. Okay, no, let's get you to the ladder. I braced myself on the easiest step and used my good arm to pull myself through the handrails to the dock. The inner tube went boop and popped right off my backside. Nan saw that my eyes got wide with surprise. Neat trick, ain't it? Yeah, neat trick, I replied. We ate eggs and oranges on aluminum plates at the table inside and drank tea made from rose petals and honey. The doors and windows were open. My senses were on happy overload with all of the sounds and smells. Even the air tastes different out here. I knew leaving was going to be hard. Then it occurred to me to ask a question that had been nagging me when we got there the night before. How do y'all know each other? I asked. Nan smiled at Claire, and Claire's cheeks blushed. Claire saved my life. She really did. She saved my store and restored hope to my dreams. I could tell that they were both about to get choked up, but I stared Nan down for more information. The story was hard to listen to, but I needed to hear it. They had met at Wormwood's Ale House when Claire lived in the city. Nan had given up on everything and was blasted drunk in the middle of the afternoon. She was about to leave with a complete stranger. Claire had been sitting along the bar right next to the awkward scenario and unintentionally eavesdropped on the entire encounter. As the couple was exiting together, Claire slipped in between them to talk her out of it, but Nan and the gentleman became confrontational towards her. By a chance of perfect timing, a police officer walking by caught wind of the yelling and took over. A struggle ensued, and the strange gentleman's elbow knocked Nan out cold to the ground. The man was arrested for belligerence and put into the back of the squad that was parked less than a block up the road. Claire explained the whole thing, how the man kept giving Nan hard drinks until she agreed to leave with him, but she also lied and said Nan was her baby sister. The police officer charged her to her care and helped her put her in the back of the Cutlass. Nan awoke at Claire's house the next day, embarrassed but thankful. A few nights later, the local news channels showed the creeper's mugshot and reported that he had been wanted in multiple states, not only for heinous crimes against women, but also multiple murders. He was finally behind bars. Anyone who recognized him or that possibly had encounters with him were encouraged to contact local law enforcement. Needless to say, when Claire comes into your life, good luck trying to get rid of her. She was put on this earth to nurse broken women back to life and then be your best friend for the rest of it. Claire was the one who helped Nan navigate her way through saving her business, moving to Anna Branch, and rebuilding everything from scratch. I wondered how Bird would feel about Claire if he knew this information, but it wasn't my business to tell it. I did, however, bring it up to the women. I knew it would eventually come out, and I figured better now than later. Bird knows Nan, I chimed in. Ah? Claire closed her eyes and nodded. That makes sense. Oh, that Bird, Nan started. He really is a hoot. He's one of my best customers. I brought up the discord I'd had with him. We made up, but it was rough. Claire was still nodding with her eyes closed. I continued. Bird was just so jealous of Claire. He was being mean and couldn't even give her a chance. Bird? Really? Nan's face couldn't hide that she didn't like hearing that. Then she had a thought. Bird seemed jealous? Did it occur to you that maybe he felt like he let you down? How's that? I asked. Claire told me that she and Nan chatted about my crafty work while I was unconscious the night before. Claire swooped in and is helping you heal and grow faster than he could. He loves the mess out of you, but he's an old man with old ideas of how women should be. He can't help it. He's just a man. Claire opened her eyes but was still nodding. Well, I have learned a lot in the past 24 hours, I said. I was feeling exhausted again and I zoned out staring at my empty plate. The women laughed and agreed that it was time for us to go. Before we left, Nan showed me how to dress and undress the bandages every few days. I needed to watch for any skin irritations, and she gave me a pumice mix to use should I need to. She also gave me some tea and herbal capsules for pain. There was one small wrap underneath it that was not meant to be removed under any circumstance until the bone was healed. Don't try to scratch it with a coat hanger, just unwrap the fabric and foam carefully, scratch it and wrap it back up. How long do I keep it on? Well, assuming you don't try jumping off your bike again for a while, I'd say 2 months. 2 months? Stay off that bike. Claire chimed in. She will be spoiled like a princess, I promised. She winked at me, but she'd done so much for me already. I had, however, learned something about my friend. She gets a kick out of watching people succeed. I figured I'd be making a lot of one-handed stick buckets for the next few weeks. Who knows? Maybe I'll be rich. We were on our way, and it seemed as if the worst part of the trip was over, the bumpy ride out of Nan's property. The rest of the ride was smooth, and I was not in too much pain. Women possess magic indeed. You know, dearie, not to talk too much about Nan fixing your arm. What? Why, that was amazing. It's frowned upon. It freaks people out. It's also against the law, she replied. Why? That's nuts. Keeps the women in line. What women? All of the women. Oh, hey, can we stop by Bird's before I go home? I was supposed to meet up with him yesterday, and he'll worry. You're not going home. And of course you can. I'm not going home? Nope. You can stay with me. I have more than enough room. Oh, what about Frank? He knows. We'll take Moose back, but I arranged everything last night over the phone. Oh. It was afternoon before we got back to town. We dropped off the dog and headed to Bird's. I was thankful to see the truck. Claire gave a honk so we wouldn't have to get out, but he didn't come. Claire got out and went up to the door. A neighbor had heard the honk and came outside. A young blonde girl next door type. She used to play with Okey Doke when she was younger. She approached the porch. Her back was to me as she talked to Claire, but the body language of both women had me nervous. I saw Claire put her hand on her hip, and her face looked confused. I wanted to pray, but I forgot how. All I could think of was, please no, please no, please no. Claire came back to the car, got inside, and looked at her lap. What? An ambulance was just here a while ago. Okay, well, let's go then. He's at the hospital, right? I don't know, she said. The neighbor said, What? What did she say? Well, she didn't come out until the ambulance doors were closed, but they never turned on their sirens. So either he's fine or he's not. Well, what does that mean? Do you want to check the diner? No, Mary will know. We drove up the road and around the corner. Joe, Al, Mary, and a few other people that I didn't recognize were sitting on the patio. The closer I got, the better I could see their faces. Joe Al made deep eye contact with me before the car even stopped. He hopped off the porch and made his way to me with his hands out. His eyebrows were shifted like a puppy, and he was gently shaking his head. I sunk down, almost to the floorboard, and I sobbed. I kicked my right foot repeatedly as hard as I could. Claire leaned forward and rested her forehead on the steering wheel. Joe Aloysius reached down to rub me, and he said, You poor child, you just can't get a break for long, can you? Okay, well, that is the end of that chapter, and I'm going to hang out with this dog a little bit and give her some love and give her some treats and just enjoy her company while I can. I hope I see you in the next chapter. Hey guys, real quick before we get to the outtakes, I noticed that in the background, Star was pretty much in the background the entire time. That's the doggie I'm watching right now. And she does have a choke lead on, but it's not a spiky choke lead. The people that adopted this rescue dog love her and have done everything in their power to rehabilitate her. The only thing that she still struggles with is she can get off of any kind of lead, collar, anything at all. That thing on her neck, it does not hurt her at all. She's such a sweet, loving dog, but she does get triggered because like so many dogs that need to be rescued, she has trauma, and it's not from her. She's not a bad dog. She never was. It's from the things that happened to her, stereotypical situations before she was rescued. And unfortunately, we might not ever know what those things are. But that lead only pulls on her if she freaks out and tries to go off and attack something. But she's a dog. She needs to be allowed to go outside. And if you notice too, she's very, very loyal. She sat like a gargoyle next to me the whole time. She could have been running around. That lead is long. She's got a whole yard she could run around in, and she stood by my side. So after we did the video, we played outside in the yard for a while. I just wanted to say that because I know when it comes to animals, people get real upset real quick, and I'm one of those types of people. But I promise you that collar on her neck is for her protection, as well as any small animals that maybe somebody has a little dog and it's off the leash and it comes into the yard. That leash is to protect everybody. Okay, here's the outtakes. Hey, baby.
Hi, sweetheart. Hi, baby. I love you. I love you.
It's okay. They rolled their eyes at each other. I reached for the cigarettes on the car started back up. I reached for the cigarettes on the seat behind. Why can't I read this? What's the matter? Do you want to go back outside? You want to go back outside? I can put you outside. Hold on just a second. The boys is noisy.
Zoomies! Zoomy, 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 zoomy. Zoomy, zoomy. Oh my goodness. God almighty. Me, this is what happens in a dog walking job? Is this my fault? What the heck? How did that happen?